After 54 months, 4.5 years, 220 episodes, this is the final Carefree Cooks Code broadcast, but not the final thing for Chef Todd Moore. I'm not going anywhere. It's just today I want to take a look back at some of the best episodes, the ones that were the most rich with usable information, the episodes that might have motivated you, empowered you, enlightened you in some way that made your time in the kitchen more enjoyable and more efficient to this day. Maybe since you saw that original episode, or maybe you didn't see the original episodes. Maybe you missed some of these episodes. Here's your chance to go back and review the topics that could have the biggest impact on your cooking. So today, it's the series finale of the Carefree Cooks Code. I'm Chef Todd Moore, and this is the Carefree Cooks Code, every Tuesday live at noon Eastern. Here's our challenge. How can home cooks cook freely with creativity, confidence, and pride while ignoring recipes and still impressing themselves and others with what they cook? Well, the answer is found in becoming empowered with how cooking works, using dependable and repeatable methods of cooking that work for any ingredient, for any diet, and any desire, just like chefs do. And we'll know we've cracked it when everyone sees cooking as an exciting and rewarding way to improve their relationships, their lifestyles, and their health through better food and cooking. This is the Carefree Cooks Code. Hey, welcome back to the Carefree Cooks Code, everyone. For the past 4.5 years, it has been the free public weekly show for methods, techniques, and insights into better food and cooking, and all the replays live on forever. Why? Because I'm a carefree cook. That's what it is. I create my own recipes. I bring friends and family together. I learn every time I cook. I create my own cooking style because I practice pro methods and I love my cooking. Now, look, I'm not going anywhere. Thank you, by the way, for the tremendous outpouring of panic and love. I saw love attached to the panic. I'm just not going to be here Tuesdays at noon anymore. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be here at all. I'm going to be sharing new food and cooking inspirations, new techniques on a new schedule in the coming weeks and months. I just want to do something new. And if you would like to get a private email reminder of when I'm going live, sign up at webcookingclasses.com/live, only if you haven't done it already. If you've already done it, signing up twice just like gums up the works, you know? If you're already getting emails from me, like an email about today, then you don't have to do that. But if you haven't done it yet, it's a good way to stay in touch. And I'm so glad that we are back together again live today because I want to thank each and every one of you, all the Carefree Cooks, tens of thousands of Carefree Cooks that have joined me for the past 220 Tuesdays to move all our culinary journeys forward, even if it's just by one little step. You know, there are some shows, some episodes, I mean, in essence, these are lecture classes. A lot of this material is lecture classes I took from culinary school, made it a little bit more entertaining, did some really nice slides that will show up over there, you know, things like that. So some classes were hugely impactful to people, some classes weren't at all, or some just moved you one step. And, you know, I had already been teaching cooking online for a full decade, 10 years on YouTube. I was publishing my textual blog back then, or vlog, as we called it. People still do blogs? I don't know. But, you know, back then, I started to feel that I needed to reach more home cooks with my message of cooking methods over written recipes. I felt, you know, when I started out, and for the first 10 years of teaching online, I felt like I was doing a lot of publishing. You know, just a lot of here and throw it at you. And not enough engagement with home cooks themselves. A lot of times I felt like I was just publishing and not really addressing the frustrations, the concerns, the roadblocks that you have in your kitchen. I wasn't addressing them directly. So on Tuesday, March 6th, 2018, I turned on my camera and I started talking directly to those needs. And this new show was called Tuesday Talk Live. It was a terrible name. But I couldn't think of anything else because I just made up this decision. March 6, 2018, I'm going live and I'm going to talk about something I want. So it was Tuesday Talk Live as it was first called. And there were 5 things that I had said in my mind that I really wanted to accomplish when it came to motivating people to cook their own food in their own home. So here were my original goals for this show. I'm giving myself a report card right now. One of the best episodes I've done over the past 4.5 years is ask 2 questions. What did I do well? What could I do better? So now I'm going to look back and compare my original goals 4.5 years, 220 episodes later. Did I accomplish any of this? And I want you to grade me. I want you to comment in the section, yeah, you did that, or you still need to work on that. Because if I still need to work on that, that's what I'm going to be doing next, okay? So let's all do my report card together. 4.5 years of culinary college that I've been dishing out. Let's see how I did as an instructor, okay? Because I knew I had to have a purpose. More than the fact that I like to talk. More than the fact that I like to talk a lot and I like to talk about cooking a lot, I had to be impactful, okay? I had to help people. So first, I wanted to make sure that I encouraged any dreams that you had. I knew I could show you just how great your cooking could be in the quickest and easiest way. But with that comes fears. And I wanted to allay your fears. No, cooking is not as hard as celebrity chefs and TV shows and cookbooks would have you believe. Ultimately, if I can do it, you can do it. I was a frustrated home cook, right? Who a career changer, quit his job, and eventually, blah, 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 is certified culinary educator, just because I was like you. So with overcoming those fears, it's not that hard, comes the recognition, the realization, and really a justification for your past failures. You have to look back and say, how come this didn't work out? And just because the recipe didn't come out right, that's got nothing to do with your ability as a great home cook. That justifies your reliance on recipes and instructions. It's not the way to go. And to do that, you really got to look more deeply into some of your suspicions, because often they're correct. You're right. Cooking is frustrating. Cooking is complicated when you're trying to learn the old traditional way. And lastly, I feel like to get a group together, we need somebody to blame for all those years of mediocre cooking. If we're going to throw rocks at someone as a community, figuratively, of course, it should be the cooking establishment. That's what used to tick me off 4.5 years ago. The TV shows that were depicting cooking as a competition, the cookbooks with vague, unquantifiable instructions, the convenience foods that try to convince us that you really don't need to learn to cook at all, you just need a microwave, right? Well, Tuesday Talk Live eventually turned into the Carefree Cooks Code, where we tried to accomplish these 5 things together every week. Did we do it? Did I encourage your dreams? Did knowing the hows and whys of cooking allay some of your fears? Do you start to understand and justify your past failures so that you can move on? Did it confirm any suspicions you had about what had been holding you back? And do you now feel good about throwing virtual rocks at those things that were hindering us? I feel good about it. And I think my self-report card is pretty good, because that's been the goal and purpose of the 220 episodes of this weekly show. So have you gotten anything out of my lessons, my rants, and my ramblings? Are you cooking better than you ever have before? I hope so. It's a lot of effort to put into it, and I'm dead serious about helping you. Have you shed your fears in 4.5 years, or 3 weeks if you've been following me that long? Do you recognize, here's an important one, do you recognize why you're better than you were before? Not like some magic trick, right? But now you have methods. You know why you're better. And those are the realizations that move your culinary journey forward. And I'm so glad to have been your guide. I know that there are many of you out there, maybe that you've seen every single episode, but there are also many who just joined us in the last year or so, especially the last 2 years or so. So today's series finale is going to take a look back at some of the best episodes that you can always find in the video section of my Facebook page, facebook.com/chef.todd.moore/videos, or if you go to this very page that you're watching on right now, somewhere up there is the banner image, and right below it, it says like files about, one of those is videos. Click on them. Okay, so let's talk about some of the best episodes, my 30 favorite episodes out of 220 of the Carefree Cooks Code. It started when I started growing my hair out, I guess. A little better now, but in 2018, there I am in downtown Baltimore with a little page boy haircut. Anybody that has watched any of the web cooking classes curriculum, 48 lessons in my premier program, you're used to seeing my hairstyle change over the time that I filmed those episodes. So it all started in 2018, where I just turned the camera on and started talking about what it takes to be a carefree cook. Very often, and this is in no particular order, we talk a lot about reaching your cooking goals. What are the steps to reach your cooking goals? And the very first step in reaching your cooking goals is stating one. This is a discussion of identify what you want to do. And you can't say, I just want to be a better cook, because better is vacuous. Better, you can't fulfill better. You have to say, I want to learn how to make sauces. You have to say, I'm going to make the best burger. You have to put something tangible on your cooking goals. Am I going to learn to braise this year? Am I going to make the best chili ever? Do I want to be a flame tamer, grill master, sauce boss? What is it specifically that you want to do? And this episode is usually in January. I usually do a January setting your cooking goals and give you some suggestions. If you haven't seen this episode, go find this episode, search cooking goals, Carefree Cook Code, whatever you got to do, and you will get some inspiration into how to set a specific goal for your cooking and attain that. And then you know what happens next. You set another goal and you attain that. And very often what goes in hand in hand with this is this episode, which is just you're asking the wrong questions. You know, people ask me what a group of spices do I use on a dish. That really has nothing to do with it. Learn the cooking methods, learn how to cook the dish, and then spice it however you want. The more important thing. So you might be asking about seasonings too much. You might be asking how long to cook something. The answer is always until it's done. You might be asking about oven temperatures or things that are relinquishing control of your cooking, that if you started asking the right questions, how do I know when something is done? What does don't overmix mean? Why does something happen? My sauce break? Those are the questions that you should be asking for sure. Great episode to look for sure. Once you're proud of your cooking, do you have any idea how many chefs you've become? This is a little bit of a culinary school education, culinary history, also about the classical brigade system. Now, if you've ever been on a cruise ship, if you've been to a very fancy hotel restaurant or something, and very often weddings use this, there will be a brigade system in the kitchen of hierarchy of people and jobs that they are assigned. How this came about, what those jobs are, even you can hear me mangle French names, is in this episode. So if you are the pantry steward, you do the shopping and you keep the food, you requisition the food, you make the sauces, you're the sous chef, you clean the fish, you're the poissonnerie, you do the baking, you're the patisserie, on and on. You will be amazed at how many chefs you have become when you start cooking by method and learn all these skills together. One of the best gifts that you can give a child, a grandchild, is a healthy respect of food and an understanding of the kitchen. at the youngest age that they can possibly conceive of holding a spoon and stirring something, seeing the reactions, because the truths about things that you can teach children in the kitchen also teach them responsibility, teach them math, teach them success, problem-solving skills, gives them confidence, brings creativity. The kitchen does all of this for children. Bring your grandchildren, bring your kids into the kitchen at an earlier age. And I didn't mean for those two to be back to back, but where do the kids come from? When you're cooking for Valentine's Day, and this was a good analogy, but any time of the year, somebody that can cook for a loved one shows they can solve problems, shows their creativity, shows their kindness and sensitivity to the foods and the foods that you like, because you do get sexier when you cook for someone else. Find that episode in my archive as well. It's a little bit silly too. Then we did a lot of examining about trying to save you money in the grocery store, trying to make your grocery shopping more effective. There's a series of classes in my archive about kitchen pantry, about what kind of food shopper you are, how most grocery stores are set up. I know you've heard the good stuff is around the edges and the bad stuff is in the middle. That's not necessarily so, but it's the choices that you have to make. Are you shopping with a list to just fill a pantry, or are you fulfilling certain needs that you have for the day? Do you shop on a daily basis where you're stopping every day after work, or do you shop on a weekly basis where you have meals in your head? Great episode to see how to change your shopping habits and potentially save money on groceries as well. You can't be a good cook without developing your palate. It's like being a blind painter. You're not going to see different shades of green. So developing your palate, or how to train your tongue to fix your cooking, is a great episode and a starting point very early on in culinary school, that we teach people how to develop their palates, how to recognize the four senses on the tongue, how to take something very salty, get some salt on your tongue, and then a little bit of lemon juice, and feel how things change. There are palate exercises that you can do to recognize, because people are always asking me, Chef Todd, how do I know what goes with what? How do I know how much vinegar? How do I know how much salt or spicy pepper? Or you don't. I mean, I sure don't know your tongue. You got to know your own tongue to be a great cook, for sure. When the pandemic started, we talked a lot about crisis cooking, carefree crisis cooking, about how to stock your pantry, about how to redo some of those takeout foods, also about the safety of food. You remember Heather and I always kid that we didn't want to touch the pizza box. Like we would get takeout pizza, and you had to, did you bleach your mail? All right, so if you were spraying your mail with bleach solution, you probably should go back and see the Carefree Crisis Cooking, because it tried to allay a lot of fears of the things that really were not going on. It was a necessary episode, I felt like, at the time. Always talking about inspiration, always talking about enlightening, elevating, empowering. I love to do that for people, and a great episode is how to level up your cooking. Identify where you are right now with your cooking. What level of cook are you? Well, if you identify what level of cook you are, I can tell you how to get to the next level. Because if you're a person that uses more convenience things, maybe a little bit of sauce knowledge will help. If you're a person who is afraid that you undercook chicken and you're going to be ill, then there are skills you can learn to do that as well. Level up your cooking, usually an early in the year episode over the last 224.5 years, but it's an inspirational thing and an instructional episode, a lesson that will show you how to get from where you are to the next step and then beyond, to get to where you want to be in your cooking. And then spring comes around and the farmers markets open up, and people always tell me that the farmers market is more expensive, the farmers market is inconvenient, the farmers market doesn't have everything that I want. No kidding. That's the beauty of the farmers market to me. I go there without a list. I go there to see what ingredients they have take my cooking skills that I'm confident in and then create something amazing. So 5 strategies, 11 benefits of farmers market shopping in the spring is a great episode to get you inspired about using the freshest ingredients and to give you a lot of respect over farmers and people at the farmers market. It's not more expensive when you consider a lot of things, right? We get into a lot of baking, which traditionally I didn't want to do. I really wanted to bring cooking to Carefree Cooks Everywhere, and I thought that baking, I can't bring a laissez-faire, burn your recipes approach to baking, because we know baking is formulas, cooking is recipes. Recipes you can ignore. Formulas you can't, all right? But there are 7 ingredients that bake everything. And to make baking formulas work for you, to make them work better, to understand faults, you need to understand the interaction of the 7 ingredients that bake everything. What happens in the flow of baking when you apply heat to something that dries out? Flour absorbs moisture, leavening agents fire, leaven the item, sugars caramelize, all these things that go into it, and the ingredients that you use alters and changes those effects. Like a cookie, getting spread on a chocolate chip cookie versus a high cookie, that type of thing. If you're into baking, this is not a burn your recipes of baking, because again, we can't, but this is the background information, the underlying information that will make all your baking formulas better. Because when baking goes bad, it usually has to do with your mixing. Okay, don't blame the formula. Either you're measuring or you're mixing is what it is, because this is the part that most home cooks and home bakers totally ignore. They throw all the ingredients in the mixer and they think the only strategy in mixing is to combine the ingredients. When if you watch this episode, go back and search for it in the archives, you're going to find out that mixing incorporates air. Mixing develops emulsifications. How you mix things together, what temperature the ingredients are, can be the difference between success and failure. So when your baking goes bad, check out this episode for sure. Chef Todd, I mentioned before, how do I know what goes with what? Goes with what? To everybody that is different. I always say Elvis Presley had peanut butter and banana sandwiches, I think, which sounds good to me. I don't know. Everybody likes something different. So this is a great episode to learn how to become a food matchmaker on your own. How do you know what goes with what in your own mind? How to be a food matchmaker? Everybody knows that macaroni and cheese are the perfect marriage, right? How about you don't have an ingredient? You're working with ideas, you're trying to cook from a recipe, and of course, the recipe is commanding you to go out and buy something, but you don't want to go out and buy something. Recipes are great for making you spend money, aren't they? You don't want to go spend money and buy something. You don't have that food. Well, you need to make a food detour. And in this episode, we talk a lot about food substitutions and how to create something out of something else using the framework of the method that you were going to use, but then how to change ingredients without changing the mechanics of cooking. You get the idea? Food detour is another great episode to substitute for I won't say it, but food substitutions. What pots and pans do you really need in your kitchen? You don't need to watch late night TV. You don't need the diamond coated pan that solved everything. Oh my goodness. As an aside, when I owned my catering company, Heather and I would do wedding shows. You know, it's at the convention center or whatever. And usually in January, when everybody gets engaged for Christmas, you do the wedding show. And we would do samples of food and so on. But there was always that oilless cookware, I think, fatless cookware or something. It was this cookware that they used to do the demonstrations and tout the fact that you can't cook unless you have these pans. And I mean, it was good for them because people were starting out on their lives and stuff, but I wanted to stand in the back and just heckle. Just heckle the guy. It's not the pans, you know? It's how you... Anyway, in this episode, if you go back in the archive, you can find the only pots and pans that you need. We talk about construction of pots and pans, what different materials, metals, and I give you, I think, the 7 basic pans that you need. How about once you're confident in your cooking, once your methods are secure, entrepreneur, you feel like you have a good toolbox in the 10 or so cooking methods that you really need, then it's time to pretty up your plates. Presentation and plating practices. This was a very popular episode. How to make your plates look better. How to arrange things. We talk about complementing, contrasting. We talk about height and width on a plate. We talk about colors and textures. Great episode to go back in the archive and check out as well. One of the very first episodes early on was a challenge. It was my chef's test. The 7 skills that you need to cook food efficiently, consistently. This really comes from culinary school because I would judge any of these students by these 7 criteria. So the premise behind this episode is the fact that all the students in culinary school, they always wanted to impress me with their signature dish. Let me make my signature dish for you. And yawn, first of all, because you've made your signature dish 100 times. That's how it becomes your signature dish. So I don't know that really demonstrates the skills. That's kind of like, let me play one song on the piano for you. I practiced making this one song. I used to say, I don't want your signature dish. And I would make them do one of these 7 things in my chef test that would prove that they have skills in the kitchen. Refer to this episode because you could challenge yourself to see how many of them you could do and whether I would hire you or not, I guess. I used to do this with interviewees also. Here's what I was referring to before. Ask just 2 questions and your cooking gets better every time. And I'll tell you what they are. What did I do well? What could I do better? If you stop after every time you cook something and think sincerely, what did I do well? Make a note of it. Close your eyes if you had to. I sauteed the onions and then I deglazed the pan. And that was good. And then close your eyes. Oh, I put too much wine in the pan. And so, what did you do well? What could I do better? Makes your cooking better every single time. The 26 kitchen temperatures that you can't cook without. This is one of the most requested classes. Everybody is looking for the PDF or screenshot on this, but pardon. It's a science class more than anything else, but applied to cooking. So everybody knows water boils at a certain temperature, water freezes at a certain temperature, but what about we get into sugar? What about proteins? Coagulation of proteins, evaporation of moisture, gelatinization of starches, where chocolate melts. How about the temperature of your mouth, the melting temperature of butter, the smoke point of olive oil, all found in this episode as well. This was a really heartfelt episode that if you want to see me get teared up, I'm a mush. We all know it. I'm very grateful, very appreciative for all the things that I have and the people I interact with. So I get a little verklempt sometimes. But I went to a seminar once and I saw this guy, Dean Graciosi, and he talked about asking yourself why on one question 7 times. Digging deeply, further, down, finding your motivation. I asked myself, Todd, why did you want to become a chef? Well, why? Because da-da-da-da-da. Well, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Well, why? Because ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. And you get to a real kind of heartfelt point. This is a great episode to see in the archives as well. 7 kitchen dangers and how to avoid them. I want to keep you safe in your kitchen as well. Look out for the knife cuts. Look out for the slip and falls. Look out for the burns. I will tell you all the things lurking around the corner in your kitchen in this episode as well. I mentioned this, the food vault. Is the amount of food that you have in your house more than your weekly pay? People have hundreds of dollars of food in their home that they don't ever cook with. This is the difference between sale buying or buying something because you're going to cook it. And the concept with this is something that I teach in culinary school. In the back door from the market or the delivery guy, through the cash register, through the kitchen, out to the diner as quickly as possible. We used to say through the cash register. But bring that food in, prepare it, and then get it eaten or purchased as soon as possible. That is how you save money on food, by treating it like a vault more than a pantry. Also, I want to give you permission, and again, allay your fears. Your cooking does not have to be perfect. This is one of the things that the Food Network TV shows and the very colorful photos in the cookbooks, they convince you that it's not worthwhile if it's not absolutely perfect, and that's not true. If it makes you proud, if you love it, if you're enjoying it, if it tastes great to you, then it is perfect. Great episode to calm things down. If you're a perfectionist, if you're a little panicky about your cooking, see this episode and it will help you also. There are 16 cooking rules that you should never follow. The establishment tells you to do these things, but you don't want to. A lot of it has to do with recipes. A lot of it has to do with brand names. You come across recipes that tell you have to have Land O'Lakes butter. I don't think so. Great primer here on setting yourself free in the kitchen and breaking some of these rules that grandma probably told you to follow all the time. And then it comes down to portioning. Who decides how much you eat in your household? The kitchen or the diner? Are people in your home just allowed to eat until they're absolutely full and then you have leftovers or you throw away food? Or do you have a concerted portion that everyone gets? You never have to deprive anyone, but there should be a portion, not an unlimited. The kitchen decides portioning, not the dining room, and I'll show you how to do it in this episode as well. A little more culinary history. We talk about the 3 founding fathers of cooking. They have different characteristics, and I find that when I updated this, it's really interesting that you might be a team Caramé, you might be team Escoffier, you might say, I recognize his philosophy and want to put it into my cooking more than his philosophy. Learning a little bit about the founding fathers of cooking can make you, give you the mission that you want. I want to be like that person. I want to follow that road. That's what happened to me for sure. And as long as we're being sticky about things, cooking words matter. When you say I fried the egg, or when you say I sauteed something and you filled the pan up, being very precise about cooking words will help your cooking as well, because being precise about what the method is helps you duplicate the method as well. Another great episode to go back and look at. And with the holidays coming up, we've got a lot of great holiday episodes that happened in the November, December time period of the year. Service styles for your holiday parties. I'll teach you from my catering course 9 different service styles for your holiday parties that you can casual it down or fancy it up when you see that episode as well. Maybe you're going to get invited to a potluck. Well, I've got potluck party tips for you as well. The do's and don'ts about contributing to a large mishmash table of food at the holiday. And holiday appetizers as well. Little 2-bite pieces of food that when people come to visit or when you go somewhere else, I'll give you the categories of appetizers and inspirations there to make your holiday better also. It all started 4.5 years ago. 220 episodes of the Carefree Cooks Code, and if you haven't seen them yet, you should go to the video archive and spend some time with the concepts, the methods, the techniques to better food and cooking, because it can help your lifestyle, it can help your health, it can help your relationships. But let me repeat, I'm not finished. No way am I anywhere near finished. That might seem like an entire career of work, and it's really only a fraction of what I've done. I still have a bulging head full of new ideas, full of new cooking demonstrations that I want to bring to you over the next 12 months. So, if you're a subscriber to my Facebook page, go there. If there's a follow button, it says something different for everyone. Right under the image on this page, up there, again, it either says follow or subscribe or like. Click that button under the profile picture if you haven't already. Then you're going to be among the first to know the next time I've got something to share live with you. As I mentioned before, also, you can sign up at webcookingclasses.com/live for my email alerts as well. So, until I am live again shortly, just not on Tuesday at noon. That's the only thing that's changing. All my courses stay where they are. All the videos stay where they are. Nobody loses anything. I'm just not making that appointment at Tuesday at noon anymore. I want to do more exciting things. So, until then, again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. The opportunity I've always wanted. I wanted to have my own show. I wanted to further my mission while furthering yours as well. Because I always want you to remember that there's a method to your cooking success. Thank you.